Greetings, my fellow Baldur's Gate 3 enjoyers, and welcome to the first video in this series, How Much Can You Milk the Nautiloid For? If you are anything like me and have played way too much Baldur's Gate 3, but can't play it with your friends, then you have probably asked yourself, is it possible to kill and obtain everything from the intro mission as a solo player in Baldur's Gate 3? In this series, I hope to answer that question for you, so you don't have to spend hours basically rubbing your privates against the cheese grater. Unless, of course, you are into that. Then hey, you do you. The first question we need to ask is why should we kill everything, and the most basic answer is because it will make you level 2 with only needing 309 experience to reach level 3. The quicker you reach a higher level, the quicker you have access to more useful tools to help you deal with the challenges the game will throw at you. The second answer is because Commander Zulk and the two Cambions have some really cool stuff, such as the Everburn Blade, but more importantly, a Trident, which will allow you to begin your Estinian cosplay much earlier into the campaign. Considering that this is the first video in the series, I will start with the Barbarian class and work my way through each class and subclass, all the way through to Wizard. I will also explain most of the important things in this first segment of the video, as a large portion of the video will contain gameplay with no commentary. The second question you need to ask is how are we going to achieve our goal? And the basic strategy is to place one or several chests to block the entrance of the final fight, to have more time to potentially kill Commander Zulk and the Mind Flayer for the Everburn Blade, and enough experience to hit level 2 when the ship lands. We're going to use the same strategy, but manipulate our character placement to allow the enemies that most people block from the fight into the fight at a later point of time. Let us imagine that the Nautiloid is like a football field split into two halves. If we have all of our players past the halfway mark, the Cambions will get stuck on the chest we place, meaning no reinforcements. For what we want to achieve, if we place us like this behind the halfway mark, this will allow the Cambions to fly over the chest and create the counterattack we want. The reason we will use us to bring the Cambions in is because of his high health total, so he can take some hits that other players of the team can't. As long as us is the closest to the Cambions, one of them will always attack him, while the second in most cases will attack the second closest target, which in this case hopefully is the Mind Flayer. If all goes according to plan before the reinforcements are brought into the fight, we will have taken out all of the enemies except one of the flying imps. That way we can keep the Mind Flayer on our side, whilst the Cambions chip away at his and us' health. If we kill all the additional lesser enemies too early, the Mind Flayer will turn on us immediately, and try to kill everyone with Mind Blasts, which we would prefer if he only did that to Zulk and the Cambions. Now you have the basics of the plan. Let me break down some of the key details that will help you execute it. Key factor number 1. Shadowheart. Shadowheart is basically the equivalent of what LeBron James was to the Cleveland Cavaliers in 2016. She carries a heavy load of the burden for how your no-load run will play out, as she is basically a Swiss Army knife and has something for every situation, but the key ones include Guidance, an out-of-combat outcome manipulator. Bless, an in-combat outcome manipulator. Command, the ability that can be used to attempt to force the commander to drop the Everburn Blade. Concussive Smash, an ability that has the chance to give the enemy the dazed condition, giving the enemy disadvantage on wisdom saves, increasing the chance of command working from 55% to 80%. And Firebolt, a long-range ability that enables our biggest amount of damage output in a single action, whilst being in a safe place to allow for an escape. Key factor number 2. Lae'zel. Lae'zel comes into play as the Kyrie Irving for the 2016 Cavs. As in most runs that don't include a heavy hitter in the terms of melee damage character, she can fit that role perfectly. But don't sleep on her utility abilities, as they can play a vital role in the fight. Mage Hand. Can be used to throw items like potions for healing, or caustic/void bobs for extra damage. Second Wind. Allows Lae'zel to heal some damage without the use of a potion. Rush Attack. Used to get Lae'zel into position early, and can also enhance the chance of hitting Pommel Strike from 50 to 75% and Concussive Smash from 35 to 50% by giving the enemies the off-balance condition. Pommel Strike. Enhances the chance of command to work from 55 to 80% by giving the enemy the dazed condition, which provides disadvantage on wisdom saves. Key factor number 3. Us. Us will pretty much play the role of Tristan Tonson, but he is a vital component for how the strategy works, as he allows the Cambions to come into the fight and can be used as a screen to affect the placement of the Cambions throughout the battle. He can also be used to tank enemy hits and provide small chips of damage or heals by attacking potions placed at the feet of low health party members. Key factor number 4. The Mind Flayer. The Mind Flayer will fit the role of Kevin Love, as he will provide us a body for Zulk to focus on, and will provide us with extra damage and the possibility of stunning enemies with the use of his Mind Blast ability. Proper manipulation of his positioning to get damage and stuns on multiple enemies will play a massive role in the outcome of all fights, but especially for those classes that can be somewhat lacking in damage. The intro mission for Baldur's Gate 3 does a really good job at providing everything that you will need in most cases, although some runs will come down to the RNG of I did not get a key item, so I had less of a safety net for the rolls that did not go my way. But let's break down some of these items and their placements. This first chest can contain a wide array of consumables in the form of potions, spell scrolls, arrows, or bombs, but it could also contain just items whose only use is to be sold. This first Mind Flayer corpse has the chance of containing a potion of speed, which will allow you to have 3 turns of double actions for the cost of 1 turn of no actions. This can be thrown at the ground to hit multiple characters, increasing the damage potential of the party. Nautiloid tanks can provide 6d6 fire damage per tank when blown up using Shadowheart's Firebolt cantrip. This basically allows us to use all 4 of them to eliminate any enemies who are below 40 health with proper placement, as misuse of the tanks can lead to disaster. Caustic and Void Bobs can be found throughout the Nautiloid in the final fight room. These can be used to add damage from a safe distance and the repositioning of enemies respectively. I will say this as a disclaimer and a reminder that Baldur's Gate 3 is a game of chance, so there will be times where you feel like you have done everything correctly and still fail because of the RNG. The opposite of this situation can also be true. In Honor Mode, remember that it is fine to take a small victory and survive, but when you have an advantage, press it to the end and don't be stingy with your resources. Never leave anything to chance like I did in this one. And hopefully this video will teach you something new about the Nautiloid that you can put into use for when you begin your own adventures. Now, let's get to milking.
One day I'll catch a break. Maybe I need more pockets. Dead. Good. Seems simple enough. Oh God, I feel better. What's in here?
The exposed.
Please,
Before they return!
remove us
From this body!
from this case. Free us.
Please.
The brain lifts from the skull.
We must go to the helm! To the...
Creature.
We are going to...
wanted the easy path.
How many hosts of these gay infected?
A rune. But for what? Raven jar. Better be cautious. Carefully now. Another step forward. Some careful footwork. Moving in.
The console hums to life. Sudden then discomfort fades, and another sensation washes over you. Connection, you are ship. You're
Dangerous company. Fair point. Let me come with you. We can get off this shut. She's right.
I wonder what the next move is. This way.
Still breathing, despite everything.
We are nearing the
king.
Best be on my way.
Eager for battle.
Wits and blades always sharp.
Action, not reaction.
There is work to do.
Time for Danny. Never a dull moment.
Like its will be done.
There's no time to waste.
Looking ahead.
Do it.
Connect.
We need to get out of here. Now. Now this will hurt. These boots have seen everything.
Victory awaits. I will not know failure.
What you'll find is mine.
If the ship hits the ground, we're dead.
I am fury. I am death.
Can't even catch my breath.
What do we have here?
Let these intruders open! The furnace is ours!
I am fury. I am death.
Nothing important is ever easy. What path lies before me?
Can't give up. Time to deal some punishment. Let's finish this. Got to concentrate. Need to act fast.
Wonder if the gods are watching me.
Stop the intruders! They must not escape!
I will ascend.
Have to keep going.
Can't slow down.
Victory awaits.
Need to stay focused. Moving.
Time to strike.
Can't afford to let up.
Another fight. Let's go.
On my way.
No choice but to keep going. Another step forward.
Swift and lethal.
It's as if.
to strike. Taking position.
Where do I go from here? Have to keep going.
Talk to me. On I go.
I wonder if this is worth the cost.
What's the plan?
Blood comes easy these days.
Victory awaits.
What now?
Time to strike. No time to waste. Ready.
Forward, Istin, before more dragons come.
Death's close at hand.
I am fury. I am death. Time to strike.
What should I do? I'm ready. Heading there.
The helm's alien transponder. As you wake, the tadpoles squirm. Other than but it'll all the tadpole.